Hi guys! Hello, it's Jazzy. Welcome to Jazzy channel. A big hug from me because we officially have 10 subscribers. You must be thinking, that's Jasmine, Jazzy. That's not a big deal. No, it's not to you guys, but for me it's a big deal. I've always watched YouTube since I was little. I've always wanted this. I've just always been too scared to do it. But anyways, that's fine. You guys are amazing. Okay, let me tell you, you're amazing. And also, you're part of the Jazz Club now. Officially, guys, don't question me. Jazz Club, you guys are officially part of the Jazz Club. Now, today, for the 10 subscriber special, I'm gonna be talking about my feelings. Because I'm in my feels today. I'm in my feels. Ever since I've gotten 10 subscribers, I've been emotional, right? Not because mentally I'm not doing well and my anxiety is all over the place. We don't talk about that. But we are going to be doing some feelings. I'm going to be sharing my feelings. I'm going to go all deep in. I may cry. Well, actually, I won't cry. Also, if you're wondering why I have my mic with me, it's because so that I don't start fidgeting with my hands. So I'm going to use this mic to keep me busy. But obviously for privacy reasons, this video, to be honest, is a very special one to me because I got a very heartfelt message from someone on TikTok. If you don't follow me on TikTok, what are you doing? Follow me on YJancy. But I got this very sweet girl coming and asking me for advice, and I give her the best advice I could when it came to like family issues. And as someone who has family issues my whole life, and unfortunately, family issues never stop. Okay, the family issue grind never stops. I wish it did, but it doesn't. But um, it really got me thinking about how I dealt with my family issues, and I just wanted to make this video, to kind of talk about self-image, self-confidence, and just self-worth in general, because I feel like within the South Asian community in specific, it's never really talked about. It's always swept under the rug, and it's always like, yeah, well, family's complicated, so deal with it. It's not that big of a deal. Like, grow up. You are a grown-up child, or you understand when you're an adult. When you're older, and even if you are older, you don't understand what's going on, and you're still like, well, every side of it, every side of everyone, okay, no matter how you look at it, it's all fucked up. It's fucked up. Sorry to swear. But anyways, enough of me rambling. Um, I just wanted to talk about this. If you guys want more story times or like me talking about stuff, feel free to. And again, 10 subscribers may not be a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to me. I'll kind of talk about some stuff later on. I will be talking a lot, and also not to get everyone's expectations like high sky high. This video's editing is not going to be anything like specifically spectacular or anything. Like my editing skills, we all know it's in the bin. It's shit. It's terrible. Like I should get a jutty to my bota. Very bad. I know. Don't worry, I get it. So a bit of background on me. My name is Jasmine, right? I grew up in Ireland, bought and brought up in Ireland by two Asian parents. Mum is British, Pakistani, father is just Indian. Mum was obviously, being from Pakistan, she's Muslim. Father, Sikh. He grew up in Punjab, in a bind, like they all do. And I grew up as the oldest daughter. Um, I only had one sibling, and I still do. I have one sibling, and he was a year younger than me. Um, Growing up in Ireland was a lot because I knew from a very young age that I was different. Because the area I grew up in was in the middle of nowhere. It was in a town. Not the closest town. Not even the closest town was about a 5-10 minute drive. But where I lived, nothing around me but houses. All houses around me. Right. I'm not gonna do visuals. Okay, this is serious. This is on you and me. But it was it was a lot in the fact of I knew I was different. I knew that I was not like other girls in my class. I knew that I wasn't white, and I knew I couldn't relate to any of the girls that would talk about, oh, we did this, we did that. It didn't help that I was bullied in primary school, and the majority of the girls in my year were girls. Right, there's only like 3 or 4 boys. The rest of them were girls. There's like 8 or 9 girls, including myself. And so, because of that, my self confidence was in the bin. It didn't exist. Like, it was awful. I felt, I felt ugly. B, I felt like a loser. Because I could never defend myself. Because I didn't know how to. I was like, what do I say? What do I do? And then I kept all this to myself. And, you know, I know my mother would be watching this and she'd be like, you stupid child. Why didn't you tell me? Well, because as a child, you don't want to tell your parents because it's embarrassing. You want to go through life by yourself and you think you're old enough, you can handle it. My parents are gonna like laugh at me, or like, even if I had told them, I felt like nothing was going to change. At most, I would go to a different school. Then what would happen? I would probably get bullied a lot more again. So I was still very lucky to say that I had like the most open-minded, amazing parents, and I love them to death. And I wish nothing, but I love them, honestly. No hate or love. But yeah, self-confidence was in the bin. It didn't exist. Confidence just didn't exist. And because of that, it also didn't help that in school I was terrible at my studies. I wasn't a studious child, as all of us South Asians are taught to go to school, get good grades, and get a good job. I did none of them. I did absolutely none of that. I am just surprised I even managed to pass my junior cert, which is like the equivalent of like GCSEs in the UK. But I just never had the greatest grades. Like, my results were always awful. I would always get like an F. I remember one time I got an E, and I hated it. I hated myself. And I would always compare myself to my friends because I thought, maybe I am the problem. Maybe I'm the issue. I'm already ugly. I'm already, you know, I'm not confident. I have no confidence. Because of that, I just hated myself and I hated everything, especially in Ireland. And, you know, they always, like, my family always motivated me. My parents, especially my mum, is my biggest support and she always will be. But as a child, you don't think about anything but yourself. You think you are the center of attention in your life, even though you're not. You're not the center of attention, you're not the main character. But as a child, you don't really give a shit. You're just like, no, this is happening to me. This is happening to me. I need help. This is not good. I need to survive on my own. Even though, you know, baby girl, you can't survive by yourself. And now, apart from my self confidence being as god awful as it was growing up, what didn't help was my toxic family. Now, when I say toxic family, I mean toxic family purely from my mother's side of the family. Now, you must be thinking, what? What about your dad's side? Yes, they were awful. Okay, yes, they never give a shit about us. They never give a shit about, like, my dad, and they never give a shit about me, mum, my brother. They didn't care. They didn't care at all. But One thing I am grateful for on their side, on my dad's side of the family specifically, is the fact that they made it obvious that they did not care. They did not give a shit about us. And so, at least with my dad's side, even though they were not great, right? That's not a good thinking to have of like, oh, I have no family who loves me. I am very grateful that they showed us reality of like, yeah, we don't care about you. We're not gonna sugarcoat it, we're not gonna lie. It is what it is. What we've shown you is what we are doing. So I respect the family for that. I truly peace and love, and I want nothing to do with them. But peace and love. That they had the balls to show us, you're not that special, you're not that important. We want nothing to do with you. We don't really care about you guys. You guys aren't the center of attention in the family. You never will. Okay, that's it. Get over yourself. So, for that, I would like to thank my dad's side family. I would like to give them a special award. You know, let me just. I would like to give them a special award of this scrunchie, which is they've scrunched up relationships. No, I'm joking. They haven't. But, dad's side of family, as toxic as they are claimed to be within South Asian communities, or just like the jokes, it's accurate. It's not exactly a lie. Now, my mum's side, they were a lot more dodgier, and they would sugarcoat a lot of stuff, which as a child you never really realize. And as I said before, my self-confidence was in the bin. It was non-existent, right? And I remember growing up having to go to UK to see my family because we were still in Ireland. We didn't move to the UK till like years later. But I remember when we would have to go, I was excited. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I was excited to go. Don't get me wrong. They would lie about a lot of things. Now, a little background before I start telling stories and give you an example that really has struck me, that has really stuck with me my whole life, and will probably always stick with me, is my mum's side of the family had a huge issue with my dad. They just didn't like him. Not only because he was Indian, not only because, but also because he wasn't Muslim. He was a Sikh, not a Muslim. And they didn't really like that fact. And they didn't like him in general. They just thought, oh, my mum could do better. There's a lot of better men out there. And, like, okay, fine, I understand. If you don't like someone and you think, oh, that person can do better, you shouldn't constantly hammer it in their head and say, no, 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 this person is awful because they do the smallest, minute things in life. Oh, they didn't do dishes. Oh, they're awful. Cancel them. Do whatever. No, no, but they would harbour on. You should never do that. And they wouldn't stop. Now, even though my dad was technically South Asian, he wasn't Muslim. And they would always have a problem. And they would be always at my mum's head. They'd knock on her head, say, why are you marrying him? Leave him, leave him, leave him. We will help and support you kids. Did they help and support in the future? Let me tell you, spoiler alert, no. No. They didn't help and support us. They ditched us when we needed them. Okay. But anyway, let me continue on. This video might be long, so yeah, sorry. But going back to my mum's family, they just really were not great. They were the type of people that looked at status and money as the most important thing in life. And everything else, the person's health didn't care about. They, okay, maybe not helped, that's a bit mean, but they cared about status. Yes, that's the word, status. Status was a very big thing in the family. If you didn't have if you didn't have status, you didn't have money, you didn't have some kind of grounding, you didn't have a good job, you weren't a lawyer, you weren't a doctor, you weren't an engineer, then you're not doing a job. Like me doing YouTube right now is just a hobby to them. Like me doing this is a hobby. They never considered YouTube as even a job when I used to tell them, no, it's a job. You get money, but it was like typical Asian thinking of like, that's stupid, that's not a thing. Now, being a part of the family, as much as I love them, and I always wanted to be accepted, and confidence was never there. What made it worse was constantly being compared to like my younger cousins, because I was the oldest granddaughter and oldest child in general on my mum's side of the family. It put a lot more pressure on me than I think they really cared to think about, because they didn't want to use their brain at this point. And you must be thinking, wow, you're being rude. I am being rude, and it's purely because they didn't think about a child, they didn't think about putting pressure on the child and expecting them to be full of grace and, not to lash out, and they just never cared. They just, yeah, they never cared. And what do I say? Just what do I say? But I remember always thinking before going, hey, we're going to my mum's family. I'm excited to go. Okay, maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe this time I will be shown love, like actual love, and I will be shown that I'm not a disappointment, and that they love me. That I can do this, and hey, at least they don't show fake love. Like, at least they show some kind of emotion. Like my dad's side of the family just didn't really care. It was like all bitching and everything. Obviously, as a child, I never realised my mum's side of the family did just as much bitching, if not more. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. They do it, okay? Shockingly, if you think your mum's side of the family don't do some kind of bitching, I don't know where you've been living. I don't know. I feel like you've been living under a rock. Are you Patrick Star? Are you? No, you're not. But, it doesn't take a genius to see that having the thought process I had growing up was not healthy, and self confidence was just not there. And you must be wondering, hey, Jazz, Jasmine, is your self confidence still there? Listen, my self with me for years, and it made me realize that I am not a part of the family, and I'm never gonna be loved. Okay, I am never gonna be loved, and nor is my mum going to be accepted. But mainly me and my brother. So let me set the scene for you. This is when I was like little. I don't remember the ages, and I don't need to get into specifics. But this example has really stuck with me, and truly will always stick with me. It has scarred me, and it's not great. But anyway, my mum has has three siblings: an older sibling, a second older sibling, my mum, and then last sibling. None of them are going to be given names because they don't need it. They don't need exposure. They're hi-fi in their own job. They're doing well. They're doing whatever, mashallah. So this oldest sibling of my mum's decides, hey, my in-laws are coming from up north. Okay, and this is in the UK. Okay, for those of you who don't. So she goes, oh, my in-laws are coming. My mum I'm just gonna call her my mum because it's easier. I'm not gonna give out her nickname because then people are gonna know who's family coming over. Specifically, in-laws. In-laws, right? And she makes this whole fuss about how, oh, I don't want my mum and the kids staying downstairs when the in-laws are here. I want them to go. My mum, as gracious as she is, she's like, fine. She doesn't want to put up a fight. She doesn't care. She knows the whole fuss. This sibling is bad. Like, anger issues, bad. Like, she's gonna try and argue her case and say, oh, because this and I'm the oldest, this, her rule in the house is the most important in the house. So my mum is like, okay, fine. Now, the only person who defended us, I remember this clearly, is the youngest sibling who defended us, and the grandmother, my grandmother specifically, who were like, no, they should be able to stay down. Who cares if your in-laws are coming? They're coming to my house. That's gonna happen. Now, eventually a fight breaks out, and then my mum's like, just to keep the peace, she's like, fine, I will stay upstairs with the kids. We will have our lunch and dinner upstairs. We will wait. Bear in mind, they stayed in that fucking house all day. They stayed in that house all day, knowing full well me, my brother, and my mum were upstairs, bored out of hell, left out, and just me specifically seething in anger of like, why don't we get the treatment of like stuff? Now, to add in insult to injury, my auntie came up to me and my brother in front of mum, and she was like, oh, can you like pretend to go out for my cousins and say, oh, we're just going out for shopping, we're going to like a family friends or something, we'll be back in the evening. Even though full well she knew that we would have to stay upstairs all day when her in-laws, her most VIP in-laws were about to come. That really hurt me because as a child I was thinking, what? Why should I have to lie about the fact that I have to sit upstairs in boredom, in quiet silence, in complete silence, for you to go be downstairs having fun and you're like my cousins are having the time of their life. Like throughout my whole life, I've never felt like I've ever been accepted in a new family, and I still don't feel like I'm accepted in a family. Like I love my mum, and she's the only family for me. She's the only family I'm ever gonna have who like I will ever speak highly of. But yeah, even as a child, I was like, that's a shitty move to make. Like, forget about the fact that she's asking her niece and nephew to lie to her kids, but just the fact that she's asking right, two kids to lie to her own kids. She didn't care about the fact that we were kids and we weren't gonna understand, and we were just as upset that we couldn't stay downstairs. We couldn't be in front of our in-laws because, spoiler alert, she had lied to her in-laws, saying, oh, my sister's kids aren't actually her kids. They're adopted. No, not even actually. Actually, I've misspoken. Not adopted, but we are our father's kids. Essentially just making us like stepkids and not actually being blood related to her or the family. Which, till this day, makes me angry because how dare you say, like, how dare anyone say that about you? How would you feel if your family were like lying behind your back? You don't know any of this. You're still a child and you find out this years later. How insulting is that? To say that about your sister, who you claim to love so dearly, and yet bully her around and say, oh, I don't want you to be in front because me and my mum look alike, and if my in-laws see that you guys look exactly the same, they're gonna know that I have been lying to them and I don't want the lie to come out. Therefore, I want you and your kids to stay upstairs. That's insulting. That's awful. Right? And that's what I had to deal with. But anyways, we cave. We're like, fine. Me and my brother lie. We give our cousins a hug. We're like, okay, we're off. We're going. Bye. I'm seething in anger and extremely upset of like. So we go upstairs quietly. We sit in boredom all day. And I mean all day. I remember we went up just after I believe we went just after like lunch. No, actually, we didn't go just after lunch. We went before lunch, and I remember the youngest sibling had to like basically go down, make our food, and then bring it up to us because the so-called like oldest sibling was so strict. She's like, I'm not having it. I don't want any of these three to come down. I don't want them to see. I don't want my charade to be cut short. You know, I don't want to be the laughing stock. You know, I'm the most important. Me, 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 me. That's all you can hear from her mouth. Me, me, me. So we sit all day. We have our lunch upstairs. We have our dinner upstairs. All day. To rub wounds into our to rub salt into our wounds even more. We come down, and then we have to go outside, knock on the door, and then my cousins go running in to open the door for us. We have to say hello as if we've just not sat upstairs in boredom, right? Upset as hell that we have to suffer while everyone else downstairs, my cousins including, get to have all the fun in the world. And we are kids. We are also kids. We may not be as young as my cousins were at the time, but we were still kids, and it still affects us. And even now, when I think about it, it makes me cry, because it makes me think, am I ever going to be important in that family? And it's like, it made me uncomfortable on the fact of like, why should I have to lie and do all this drama? For what? You know, it's like after a while you kind of give up and it's like, why should you have to lie? Why should you have to make an effort when you know no one's gonna see it and no one's gonna care? And it makes me even think about how scared I am about like if I do get married or whatever in the future. Like, am I gonna have to deal with that? Do I want my kids to deal with that? Even if I marry like a non-Muslim or a non-Sikh and I go outside of like religion or whatever, I don't ever want to put my kids into this situation. And I'm always going to stand up for them. And I love my mum. And I know she tried her best to do what she could to shield us from that. But I never once felt accepted. And, you know, I'm glad we've left them. I'm glad we have no relationship with any family. And not just on the mum side, but also on the dad side. Because if family want to treat you like you should have to hide upstairs purely because your father is not what you want it to be, or everything's not going your way, and your sister did something that she wanted to do for herself. Get lost. Like, actually get lost. And, you know, I just want to say for people struggling with toxic families, you're not alone. Like, I wish it was more talked about in South Asian communities because yeah, the jokes are very normalized about, oh, the father side is toxic and like, you know, they're awful. And then the mum side is amazing and everything, but then later on, their PR was just amazing and you find out all this shit later. And you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to feel that way. And now that I think about all of this, this is just distant memories. and it does stick to me. But it does make me wonder if I was still a part of that family, if I was still like feeling the way I did, with the confidence that I had, which was non existent, with the feeling of feeling ugly, feeling unloved, and just never feeling like I had a place to be. In the fact of whenever I went to my dad's side, like, yeah, they did accept us. They knew that we were half Muslim or half Pakistani, and then, there were a few relatives who were like doing their juja or whatever, and like, but most of them just didn't really care. Most of them were nice, but it just felt like all performative and fake. It never felt genuine, and I've always had this hole in my heart of like watching YouTubers in particular doing these videos. It's just like I want a community of people who support each other, and I want all the girlies and everyone in general to say that you're not alone. Having to deal with toxic families should not be normalized. I mean, it should be normalized on how to help and support each other, but it should never be normalized in the fact of, oh yeah, this is our life, we have to deal with it. No, you shouldn't have to deal with it. You should be able to recognize it and get out of it because it's not good for you mentally or physically or spiritually in any way. And one thing I want to say before I sign off and I say bye is that for anyone dealing with toxic families, I get you. I completely get you. And like the reason I even did this video was because I wanted to talk about my experiences, but then there was this really sweet person on TikTok who had reached out to me saying they had dealt with family issues and they're dealing with it and they would like my advice. I'm not good at giving advice and I'm not good at like explaining stuff, but you are not alone. I'm here for you, and I was kind of nervous to make this video, and I remember talking to my mum saying, is this right? Like, can I talk about it? Are you gonna be upset? And she was like, no, this is your experience. As long as you're not naming and shaming anyone, as long as you're not naming anyone, there's no issue. Who cares if they know it's about them? Only they know. Only I know. But, I'm over all this. And you must be wondering, hey, where's my self-confidence? To that I say, it's not in the bin anymore. It's not. It's actually pretty okay. As Jing Jazz here, I would like to apologize for the kind of audio issues I was having. So if there's any audio issues, I do apologize. I can't really do anything. I'm just kind of filming it on my laptop. Like I said, the mic doesn't actually work. I just used it for emotional support, you know? Just like a emotional support animal, this was my support.